but I'm very happy if they can just do it. Yeah, is that right?
Yeah, I'll just get you to speak to yours.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Welcome to our guest speakers, members of the public, staff and councillors, and those viewing virtually to the Community Wellbeing Committee meeting. I have two apologies from Councillor Richard McPhail and Councillor Paul McPhail. Are there any other apologies, please? No more apologies. Could I have someone move the apologies? Thank you, Councillor Hovell. Thank you, Councillor Reid. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. The minutes of the Community Wellbeing Committee meeting on the 26th of the 9th were confirmed at a full council meeting on the 10th of the 10th. Has anyone any conflicts of interest they would like to declare? There are none. We have 5 items on the agenda today, and our first one up is the Murihiku Southland Destination Strategy, and I'd just like Nick to come forward and Amy to present that to us. Thank you. Nick is the Destination Development Advisor for Great South, and Amy Young is the Destination Development Manager for Great South. The strategy provides a blueprint for Southland's destination management, assisting visitors to have a quality experience in Murihiku. Welcome, Nick and Amy.
Kia ora koutou everyone, thank you so much for having us here today. It's exciting to finally get back to you to present this strategy and the work we've been doing in this space. In today's presentation, I just wanted to touch a little on the importance of tourism and destination management to our region, a look at the background to the strategy and how it was developed, before taking a bit of a look at the plan itself and what some of our next steps from here will be. So tourism has been of key importance to Murihiku Southland, obviously for quite some time, and been consistently recognised as a key diversification opportunity for our region. Originally within the SWORD strategy from 2015, but more recently within the Beyond 2025 Southland Regional Long-Term Plan, where it was identified as one of those top 2 diversification opportunities alongside aquaculture. And the sector was also the 4th highest earner for our region pre-COVID and was experiencing strong growth at that time. We know tourism also has really strong alignment with our communities. It has that ability to bring vibrance, investment, job opportunities, more events and activities, and we definitely see that happening in the Gore community, and to improve infrastructure. And in areas of the region where community boards have created their own plans, such as the Southland District, they also reference that strong desire to grow tourism and continue in their place. And lastly, we know tourism is really important for our goals to attract people to live and work in the region, because they've normally come here as a visitor first. So that's their first interaction with us, generally before they become a resident. So we need a really strong plan to manage and I guess the benefits of tourism. So since 2019, we had the Southland Murihiku Destination Strategy to achieve that. It was the first regional plan in New Zealand to align with New Zealand Aotearoa Government Tourism Strategy, so we were quite ahead of our time on a national scale. But by 2022, only 3 years into the plan, over 2/3 of the 68 recommendations were already complete, in progress or under investigation. So that implementation had happened a lot faster than we expected. Throughout that same time, around that 3-year period, a lot of game changers for our tourism sector had also come on board in the form of some of these key developments and movements in that space, right through from that jet service connecting Invercargill to Auckland and then acting as a gateway to the rest of the region for those visitors, right through to the Southern Way Touring Network launch, which again includes the Gore community and trying to connect the lower south together. And again, the Huntbridge track was another one there around being a 5th great walk in our region, so really cementing our place in the outdoor environment. So the revised strategy was created at this time for a variety of reasons. Firstly, we know we had that significant achievement of the original plan, which was supported also by MB through our government funding and that post-COVID time. Our tourism landscape has changed with all of these new developments coming on board, and we have to acknowledge also the impacts of COVID and what that means for our sector to have a fresh perspective moving forward. We also know growth is predicted to be back at pre-COVID levels much sooner than originally expected, and that might lead to pressure at some of our key destinations within the region, such as Milford. We really need to align our activities with our communities and what they want from tourism, as well as the perspectives of mana whenua, and need to redefine what success looks like beyond those purely economic measures that we had looked at in the past, such as visitor spend. And lastly, to align with that beyond 2025 Southland's regional long-term planning process. So the process to review the strategy was led by Great South, as we look after the region's 2 regional tourism organisations, Visit Southland and Visit Fiordland. We also were able to get a strategic advisory group established to help guide that process, and it was great to have Anne on that group with us, representing the voice of Gore. We had further stakeholder and industry workshops, which other members of your team were able to attend, which was really fantastic to have their input, and other key meetings with different stakeholders and partners. And we also conducted some supporting research, such as the community sentiment in relation to tourism, and we had Infometrics support us with a tourism data snapshot and also a forecast forward so we could look at what might happen in the sector, particularly in that post-COVID space. And we also undertook our own survey around sustainability and where our operators are at on that journey. So of that research, I just wanted to touch on a couple of the key pieces there. The community sentiment in relation to tourism piece was really important because it showed us what our communities want from tourism, and it heavily underpinned the development of the strategy. Some of the key takeouts from that were that our residents are far more likely to say they've benefited from tourism than others in New Zealand, so it definitely has that reach into our communities. And 85% of our residents would like to see some growth in tourism, as long as that is well managed. And of those, 30% want to see significant growth, so they definitely see this as an area that we can build on within Murihiku. There was a higher level of approval for domestic tourism, which is understandable in the COVID environment, and a lower acceptance for growth in Fiordland and Western Southland. Again, that's a very highly touristed areas within our region, so not to be unexpected there. And the desired tourism focus was around improving community infrastructure, enabling visitors to travel more widely so that more of our communities benefit, and attracting a higher value visitor and value in terms of those that are aligned with what we want to achieve within our communities. Infometrics and the work they did with us looked at 2 different scenarios for the recovery of tourism post-COVID, because it's very uncertain and quite difficult to predict, particularly at this time. They were Small World, which looks at travel being limited to New Zealand and Australia, in the variety of reasons which that may occur, or unrestricted international travel as Big World, back to a scenario we're more familiar with. These were looked at by the RTO level because they have quite a different visitor makeup. In Fiordland, we're heavily international, whereas the rest of the region is more domestic focused. So in either scenario, the Visit Southland RTO outside of Fiordland is expected to recover to pre-COVID levels by the end of this year, so that's really upon us, and Fiordland by 2025, 2026, depending on the scenario there. So again, really strong bounce back for the sector. So with the future development of tourism, it's really important that this is grounded in a destination management approach, where we look at the economic, social, cultural and environmental wellbeing of our people and our place. To achieve this, we really need a strong plan. We know our communities want tourism and strong growth coming, but it needs to be very well managed. We need to ensure our sector is closely connected to what our communities want and delivering real benefits that they perceive. We also need to prioritise sustainability and move to that regenerative future, and this will require everyone working together on this journey. There are multiple stakeholders in the tourism sector, and we see this as a plan that everyone can get behind and work together on. So in summary, the plan that we're sharing with you today is a crucial step in our reimagining of tourism. We see it as a plan for all Southlanders, and one that seeks to lay the foundations of a more sustainable and regenerative visitor economy. It will be heavily linked to our communities, like I said, delivering real benefits for them, Mana whenua, and working in strong partnership there and with an understanding of te ao Māori values, and with sustainability at the heart of all we do, and that care for our place and our environment. We've created a revised vision for the sector through this plan. So you can see this really focuses on our points of difference and what they are, and then how we want to deliver what we seek to do. So within the strategy, there are 63 projects identified to deliver the vision that we've set. And these are in 5 sections: environmental stewardship, leadership and capability development, access and infrastructure, experience and product development, and sharing our story, which is more that marketing piece. And from these, we've identified 24 priority projects, which you see in the tree diagram here, which is also in the strategy document. And these are those that just have the highest propensity to help us deliver that vision. There are also 5 key enablers that we've recognised that will be of critical importance to the success of the plan. So the first of these is around workforce attraction and development. We know across many sectors this is a challenge, and it probably always has been a little bit in the tourism sector, but worsened by the impacts of COVID. Advocacy and regulatory planning references some of those key issues that are important to our communities and businesses at both a regional and a national level. The Tourism Leadership Group is a yet-to-be established group that recognises that it does take a variety of stakeholders to manage our destination well, and that we see this group being put in place to help drive the strategy implementation forward. Data and insights, because again, that's really important to understand where we've been and where we're going to and be able to measure our progress. And lastly, quality accommodation development, because we know we are short across the region, despite some new developments that are coming on, and in some locations, this is putting pressure on housing for staff and residents. The plan also has a really strong focus on dispersal and moving visitors around the region to help alleviate pressure at some of those key points, but also spread the benefits of tourism, because we want all of our communities to benefit from that flow. Achieving this will require a variety of actions to be undertaken. Firstly, promoting, obviously to encourage that wider travel, activation of our regional story and understanding of who we are and who our people are through Murihiku, the Southland. Looking at that effective public transport network, connectivity piece as well, as alongside visitor information and how we help use that to help move people around. And then the development of experiences across the region, just really so that we give people reasons to want to go to different places for what they can experience once they're there. So there are obviously 5 key areas in the plan. The first is environmental stewardship. And this is really recognising the role we have to play in supporting the sustainability of our sector and identifying priorities to bring us to that regenerative future. There are 10 projects in this area, and the key focuses here are our partnership with the Department of Conservation, who again are a key landowner but also tourism operator in our region, achieving our sector decarbonisation goals alongside all others who are also working on this, connecting that spatial planning piece that we know a variety of organisations are looking at and councils to really help assess climate change impacts, supporting our operators to improve sustainability. We have a program that we've developed around that and over the last 2 years. It's been working very well. And educating our visitors and trying to find ways we can engage them in environmental protection and utilise that resource as well. In the area of leadership and capability development, this really recognises that we need to have really strong collaborative partnerships to lead our sector forward and achieve that long-term and responsible growth of the sector. There are 11 projects in this area. The first, again, actually quite a few of these are really linked to those key enablers. So the leadership group establishment is in here, the sector advocacy, the workforce development, data collection, but also regional collaboration and community participation, because we want to hear that community voice more often rather than just in the survey periods. Access and infrastructure focuses a lot on how we get people to the region and how we move them around once they're here, enable that to happen easily so they can explore what we have to offer. So of the 10 projects in here, some of the key focuses are around enhancing our air connectivity. Again, that direct jet from Auckland has really been a game changer for our region, but what else we can advocate for in this space? The visitor information provision and that visitor information network again is key here. The Milford Opportunities Project Progression, which seeks to kind of, manage the experience in Milford and bring wider Southland benefits from that. public transport options to help move people around. We know this is a real challenge for us with our low population bases, but also our communities want to see this as well to help them. And again, cycling and EV infrastructure, which is another really important piece as we move towards sustainability, but also the cycle tourism market is a really significant one, and it's definitely seeing strong growth. Experience and product development is a key area in the plan. We really want experiences that we develop to represent who we are and create a really strong connection so that people engage with our authentic selves, the perspectives of our people, and that want to come and return. So that connection's really built there. There are 21 projects here, so it's a really key focus in the plan. And this identifies that we still have quite a lack of commissionable products or paid for experiences in our region. We have that quality accommodation gap, so there's a bit to do in this space. The focus areas are around quality accommodation development, cultural narrative experiences, the further development of the key pillars, so those are the things that people associate with Southland and want to come here to experience, such as our food, our cycling, our walking, our night sky. The urban rejuvenation and town story development, so they understand what each of our sub-regional areas or towns are all about, and that management of tourism in some of those key destinations. And lastly, the sharing our story is really about ensuring that we stand out in a competitive marketplace. We know through COVID, lots of regions are definitely competing for the same visitors, so really understanding what makes us different is important. And we want to share that with markets that align with our values. Of the 11 projects here, some of the key focuses are the development of a regional ambassador program for those who interact with the tourism sector, integration of that Southland story, Marahiku the Southland, the implementation of our events strategy, because we know that is such a key driver of visitation, our content and campaigns around those pillars, and our touring network promotion. So overall, the strategy is really about building a sector that is deeply grounded in our people and place, creating those shared benefits for all, while also creating that unforgettable visitor experience. And so from here, we're currently working on an implementation plan to support the strategy. So this will look at prioritisation of some of those key enablers, which projects require advocacy, because there are a lot of those that are identified that may not be within our power, but we have the power to build that voice around. Timeframes, project lead and support organisations, because this is not just a Great South plan, it will be a regional plan, so there'll be others involved in its success, measurement of success, and then where resources may be required for some of those more significant projects. We've also touched on some of the focus areas that we see within the plan that relate to core district council. There'll be many more because a lot of the projects are quite regional, but some of these are the more specific ones. So we've identified the significance of the Moroai precinct and what that will do for tourism in this part of the region, that being launched. Urban rejuvenation, or Moroai Gore, because we know that's something that you're looking at around streetscaping, what the city looks like into the future. Cycle trail development and infrastructure, and we actually, Nick will be sharing with the community the cycle tourism opportunities assessment that we've been working on in the next few weeks. Cultural narrative and experience development across the region. We know, and within this year, we know Hokonui Runaka are working on upgraded storytelling at Tutadao. Tourism sustainability obviously is really important for everybody, so that's around spatial planning, supporting operators, looking at those public transport networks and waste management, and implementation of the Southland Marahiku event strategy, which I know events is a really significant part of the Gore visitor offer. Other key considerations are around probably the tourism leadership group that I touched on. We would love to look at perhaps someone from Gore who may be able to be represented within that group. Implementation and plan involvement. Obviously, we'll connect back with you when we have that draft ready. And again, all working together to try and leverage external funding for the region, because we know funding is a hard one for us all. So where we can use what we have to bring more in from outside the region, that's a win for us all as well. Oh, and that's all I had to share today, but more than happy to answer any questions or have discussion.
Thank you so much, Amy, for that
worries.
really comprehensive, and I can see that there's a lot of work gone into the strategy. So are there any comments or questions for Amy? Councillor Hovell?
Just by way of introduction, just a little bit of stats that come out of the report. Gore is mentioned 29 times, Te Anau 50, Milford 67, Invercargill 124 and Bluff 68. Where do we sit in terms of priority, in terms of where is the focus, or what do you see as the potential that we could develop to be a focal point for tourism activities in this part of Southland?
Yeah, I think you have a lot of really strong strengths going for you. I think agritourism is obviously a really core part of Gore with that rural community as well, and we see a lot of operators in the region in that space. We've run some workshops around that over the last few years as well, trying to help build that. I think obviously the event space we've talked about a little bit is really key for Gore, and a lot of those events are really key to what your people are about, you know, the country music scene, the Hokanui fashion, to name but a few. I think obviously the Hokanui Moonshine Museum and the development around our food story is really strong as well, and that combined with the arts I think is a really strong market who will be attracted to Gore, and that fits in with our wider regional food tourism strategy and things as well as a really key development. So I think there's some of the things that you really have going for you, but there's a lot of potential development in other areas as well, such as cycling, which we hope to be able to elaborate on in the coming weeks. Yeah. Okay,
so a couple of things you mentioned there, like the fashion, aren't referred to in the document. I guess from an implementation point of view, what's the opportunity for being a bit more specific as we move forward? And probably the second part of that is that at page 68 it talks about the tourism leadership group. Mm-hmm. Now, is that a staff group or is it a governance group?
That would be more of a governance level group, and we'd see that as having representatives from some of the key stakeholders who have projects within the plan, but also try to get some representation from different parts of the region as well. So I think, you know, I'd see a place for our councils within that group, Department of Conservation, for example. Some of those key players, without trying not to make the group too big, so it's still a good size to be functional, but yes, to help drive.
Thank you. So while my questions might have been seen as a little bit negative, there's a lot of really good stuff in here that I think gives us a few leads that I guess as a council here, there's some things that we should be picking up on and working together with Great South. So I look forward to that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We'd really, this document is all about partnership and working together, I think. So it's great to hear you acknowledge that. Thank you.
Councillor Reid.
Thank you. Thanks. Yes, I was just reading today in the paper about the cruise ship over summer intended, I think, 9 trips. So given that where Gore is located, what are you going to do to encourage those people coming off that ship who are very high value customers to come to Gore for a day trip to look through our museum and art galleries and everything else that they want to see?
Yeah, so there are some from the season coming over to the Hokanui Moonshine Museum. We just actually visited before we came here. So there are 19, I think, berths coming into Bluff this season, obviously more in Fiordland and Akiura. And obviously in Fiordland they don't disembark though, so there's limited opportunity there. So I think there's definitely a strong opportunity for Gore. It's within a short distance, and being 19. And the fact that some of those cruise lines are already coming here is really strong. So I think the cruise ship market is about trying to build on that year and year, and having that facility is a really amazing experience for them. So I think that's definitely going to help.
I understand that, but what exactly, how are those people on that cruise ship going to find out? What are you doing as part of your strategy to promote through those cruise lines?
Yeah, so we connect with Cruise New Zealand, obviously, and they have agents who will reach out when they want to look at what products might be available in the region, because it's a very long lead time. Upwards of 2 years it can be for them to book those things in. So it's probably down to, I guess, the operator as well becoming proactive with us and trying to connect them together. Yeah, sometimes they don't. Yeah, every cruise line's a bit different of how much they want to kind of integrate and get involved with us, but we're definitely probably a connector in that space.
Because one of the difficulties we've had in days gone by is that Google Maps have actually bypassed Gore, and so even self-drive tourists don't always come this way because the short trip to get to Queenstown or Te Anau is through the back road. So, yeah, I think you know, if there was some help in that area, it would be very beneficial for us.
I think the Southern Way touring network that we've launched earlier this year is a partnership with Otago and Southland. So that's more of a, rather than a point-to-point like the Southern Scenic Route, it's looking at a network of roads within the Lower South. So Gore is within that, and it features on that website. And we have there's 8 RTOs that contribute to that route, and we have a marketing person in place to promote that, and she's very aware. We've had her come down to the region once already, but we're hoping to get her back and be able to get her around to experience more things as well. So I think that will help as well with people looking at that route and just looking at other ways they may be able to get to places rather than just, like you say, one route to Queenstown and we're out. We want to slow people down in our region and get them to stay here longer and experience more of what we have to offer. Yeah, thank you.
Any more questions or comments? Councillor Hobell.
Environment Southland collects about $1.1 million in levies, for the want of a better term, for the cruise ships that go into Milford. And I'm not too sure how they spend that money or whether it's available for wider tourism activities. Are there any levies paid on the boats that come into Bluff?
I think, yeah, it's the same. It would go to Environment Southland in that scenario. I know that they work on environmental, I guess, some of the work that they do in that space from that levy, but down to the actual detail, I probably would need to check that. Can't 100% answer that one for you. But
Councillor Fraser.
Just looking a bit further out, because years ago Milford Sound was land Queenstown, catch your bus, straight into Milford, straight out, maybe stay the night in Queenstown and out. I mean, there must be figures in relation to how many of those people were that went into Milford compared to how many drove in. Is that data still available, or is that still, do we know?
not to that detail. I don't think we can look at the numbers of travellers that go into Milford Sound based on the ferry and the cruise experience bookings, because that's really what they tend to do. So we have that data that does get shared with us through Milford Sound Tourism, but that granular detail is not so available. So yeah, unfortunately, but that whole network around those whistle-stop trips through Queenstown is definitely what we have consistently over a long period of time and will continue to do, is try and change that direction of travel and get people to use, obviously Invercargill as a gateway as well to experience Milford, but also to slow down and spend time in Te Anau and reduce that whistle-stop visit, which is not a great visit experience anyway, kind of, that rushed long car journey in and then out. And everyone tending to arrive around that same time of day as well, which is partly the reason for some of the congestion that occurs at Milford.
Over.
Do you collect data on the occupation of motels and hotels?
There's a national data set called the Accommodation Data Program, so they collect data around accommodation in that commercial space. So that will look at all the different accommodation types in that sector, but it is voluntary. So with every data set, it's got its, I guess, limitations. So, but that is out there readily available on the MB website.
And the reason for asking is that if we're wanting to encourage more accommodation, there's a threshold above which it's economic to build more. I'm just wondering if there's the opportunity of accessing some of that and using that. Because in recent months, I think accommodation here in Gore has been quite well used, and it would be nice to put that out there and to a few investors saying, it's worthwhile investing.
For sure. And we're also, as part of, I guess, the Beyond 2025 project as well, looking at housing and accommodation, conducting a bit of an audit for it in the region, what capacity is at the moment, because obviously with COVID, there's been some changes in the last few years. So it's quite a manual process, takes a bit of time, but trying to understand where all our properties are at in terms of what they have on offer.
Any more questions? Councillor Phillips.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's not so much a question, but just a thank you for the presentation. And our biggest problem is that Queenstown's on the wrong side of us. If Queenstown was in Dunedin, it would be really great, because then when you're travelling, everyone gets a view before they go home again. So, but currently when they're travelling, all the views coming this way are behind them, and it's a bit of a problem. So
Yeah.
if Queenstown was on the other side, it would be really good.
Right, I'm not sure I can help you with that one, but
No, it's a big issue. It's a big project, that one.
yeah. But I think lots of, like the Hokonu Moonshine and things that you're doing that make this place attractive will help encourage people to take a different route. I think it's just building on that is really important.
Any further comments or questions? Just one thing that I've noted, Amy, is that I see it's in your key actions, is that you're working with businesses that require workers to provide accommodation. And I think that's a huge thing, because I know there's a lot of young people out there that are sleeping in tents and cars that are working in some of these places. So
Definitely
yes.
agree with you there. Yeah, and that's a bigger housing picture for our region as well, isn't there?
Absolutely.
That links back to for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for
No,
your
thank you.
presentation, and let you get on with your day.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Could I have somebody move that the report be received? Thank you, Councillor Phillips. Seconder, Councillor Fraser. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Our next presentation is from Charlene Taylor-Gills on the neighbourhood support. Thank you, Charlene. I see Kelly is here as well. Hello, Kelly. Can you just turn your speaker on?
Hello everybody, I'm Charlene. I've got Kelly with me today. I'm new in the position with neighbourhood support, and Kelly's was running the position before me, so she may be able to answer any questions or jump in. I see I'm having a few technical difficulties already. It seems to be my week for these things. The font has changed on the computer, so yeah, we checked it before and it hadn't. So yeah, so hopefully it isn't impacting too much on what you can read. So a neighbourhood support, most of you would have heard of neighbourhood support. It's a community initiative and it's community led, so how the community wants to run the program is different in every area. Connects the neighbours with each other so the neighbourhoods are safer and more caring places to live. So the aim definitely is to reduce crime, be prepared for emergencies, and get communities connected and enhance wellbeing in the community. New Zealand Neighbourhood Support is a registered charity, and it has been since 1999, and we work alongside the police and partners. We work really closely with them, and that is to equip the neighbourhoods to improve their safety and connectedness, and of course be prepared for emergencies. It's made up of a network of community organisations that currently support over 200,000 now, so I think it's around about 220 households and counting as we speak. Neighbourhood support initially started as Neighbourhood Watch, and you may all remember that. And in the 1990s, they relaunched it. And they relaunched it to reach out, look out, and help out. So they took away the old way of thinking that it's Neighbourhood Watch and watching your neighbours. And why join? When you join, you have a great way to know your neighbours, but you also receive emails and alerts. That means it could be a localised crime report for your area. We don't send out a crime report for the whole of the area. We send it to the people in their localised area so they know what's going on in their area alone. And that's not to create, so we don't create stigmas in certain areas in the community, etc. And it's really things that are relevant to what's going on in your community. And we also provide tips for safety and preparedness for emergencies. And of course we have the access to the neighbourhood watch stickers and the street signs, etc. And lots of information, yeah, plenty of information. And this is our resources online, and this is everything that we can sort of send people for information, and we can get information for them. And as you can see, it's not just what the old traditional neighbourhood watch was. We go into all sorts of further information for people. So lots of resources online. So getting involved in Neighbourhood Watch can be whatever you want it to be. You can join as an individual, or you can join as a household. In a group could be a church group, it could be a business group, all sorts of things. So it's as much involvement as you want it to be, and you can join and have street barbecues and get to know your neighbours in a whole neighbourhood. You can do street cleanups, plant swaps, anything that the community wants, or you may just be a household that you really just want to be individual and just have the access to information and the resources. And of course it's free, and you can join an existing group, or you can even start your own one. And getting involved, of course we're always looking for volunteers. That would be the ideal world. So if you know of anybody that's looking to be a volunteer, it's an ideal opportunity to get them to meet their neighbours and get involved with the community. You can get involved by starting a group, helping at events, mail drop to get the name out there and to get people knowing that it is available in this region, and also sharing ideas and initiatives, which would be where the plant swaps and things all came about, was people in the community getting involved and actually giving their ideas of what they would like to see. And the whole picture, lots of people in their community are doing an informal sort of neighbourhood support action. I talk to lots of people and they say we're already doing that, and they're swapping their information, supporting their neighbours, etc. Those simple changes and things can make such a world of difference to people's lives. With neighbourhood support, we can make it formalised, which means it might be able to put a sign up in the street to sort of help deter crime, etc., and also give them the resources and help them prepare an event if they want to do a street event of things. And of course, neighbourhood support is all about like looking after your neighbours, you know, collecting mail if they're away, taking their bin out, all those sort of things, which is what community support really is all about. And how to join. We're based at Connected East and Southland, and we have a national website which can link you to a Join Now form, and we have a QR code that we put on up in public spaces so people can actually join very easily, and that joins a database. Recently, Kelly and I were very lucky to go to the national conference up in Wellington, and that was my very first day of work with neighbourhood support, and it was a perfect opportunity because I actually got to dive right in, meet people that have been doing it for a long time around the communities in New Zealand, and got lots of ideas and made lots of connections, and I saw how successful it could be and how important, and the changes that people are making to their communities. It was really a fantastic opportunity to go to that. Yeah, it was really good. Connected communities are happier and healthier. There's a lot of research around loneliness and what people want, and connectedness and so on in society. There's a lot of actual research on the financial cost to a community when there is loneliness and people aren't connected. And this, of course, put demands on social care and the environment. And one of the big research pieces that were done, this was solely done on the cost to the community on not being connected and loneliness. So it was a big study, and it showed that there was a big financial cost to the community and of course to local governments, etc., for when communities aren't connected. And so there is, a benefit by increasing social connection. And of course, feeling lonely and feeling isolated leads to people using alcohol and getting depression, and that leads to other health conditions. And of course, we all know that with COVID, there's been like a disconnection with society, and there's a lot of people who are isolated. So they're vulnerable to all these further things that affect them. So, connected communities can work together to find solutions to the local issues, and this is where the benefit of connected communities can come through, like some areas have adopted clean-up days, and it could be a local stream or a park, book swaps, plant swaps, seed swaps, talking to each other, and quite often the community has solutions to some of the things that are going on in their neighbourhood. So people together can be quite strong in finding solutions. And knowing who your neighbours are, what skills and resources they can provide in time of need. Obviously, quite often the first person to respond in an emergency is a neighbour, and Neighbourhood Support has a database that people can join, and they put their resources and skills on there. So in a street, I can see immediately filter down to anyone that's got medical training, or they may have a generator or the ability to cook without power, etc. So that's all about knowing your neighbour and their skills and their resources, and that's something that Neighbourhood Support encourages with our database. And basically, neighbours are the first responders in time of emergency quite often, and that's talking about our database and having access to our database in a civil defence emergency. Super quick to filter down and find who's vulnerable and needs help. And this is our database. It's called Gets Ready. It's very user-friendly, and we sign people up. They can go on the database themselves, and they can actually update their information as needed. This is where it comes into play is when there is an emergency. So anyone vulnerable, for all sorts of variety of reasons in the community. In the event of like a flooding or so on, we can liaise with council, and we can actually know who to go out and see straight away. And ideally, in an ideal world with Neighbourhood Support, there'd be one person in the street that we could contact, and then they could go out in the street and check on the vulnerable people. But because we've got access to that information quite easily. And of course, the skills and needs and resources is on there as well. And it's a secure database. And that's the saying. And I use the database also that's where I send the crime reports out, localised crime reports, but I can also send out any alerts to areas, so that could be any council matters or so on as well. Could be roading, flooding, all sorts of things, or any upcoming projects and emergency preparedness and so on. So, how can Neighbourhood Support help local government? So we definitely have a common goal, connecting the community and making it safe and resilient. And some of the support that we'd like to continue with the Gore District Council giving us support and putting our signs up for Neighbourhood Support. And we're very appreciative because we've had lots of support with the sharing communication, being involved with events and so on, and sharing my events on the Chinwag, for example. So yeah, that's great collaboration that I'm getting with the Gore District Council. And the benefits of collaboration. As a Neighbourhood Support Coordinator, I'm here, I do get to hear people's concerns in the community, and that's crime concerns, it could be lighting, it could be things to do with their community feeling secure, and some of that is Gore District Council related, and I could feed that back, and it just makes a nice user-friendly way for people to feed that information back, and relevant information can come back easily, and that would be a good way to liaise with the council. The database that we can activate in an emergency, that's very important, and working with the Gore District Council, as we know, with the recent floods, possibility of the floods getting worse. So your support with council is definitely invaluable. And the other thing with neighbourhood support is that the information that the people get is verified, because in the community groups, for example on Facebook, there seems to be lots of information that floats around, but not all of it is correct. So the good thing is with neighbourhood support, I can actually send out verified information, and that through my database. So that's another way. If there is anything you'd like to feed back, I can feed it back to my database too as well. And not everyone is on social media, so the database is helpful to send them out an email. And with people, there's a lot of people in the community don't have emails, so what I do is try to find someone in their street that does, so that any of my emails can actually be fed back to the people, and that's neighbourhood support as well, neighbours supporting each other, and the face-to-face connection. They've got me and Kelly supporting, so they do have that face-to-face connection with neighbourhood support in this area. And looking forward, definitely a more connected community, and having community events and getting people together. I'd love to see communities start up active events like cleaning up an area or cleaning up a street, all sorts of things in that area. Youth engagement, I think this would be wonderful if we could get our youth more involved with the community, and those people will be following that through for the rest of their life in this area. The business groups, I think that would be a good support for them, especially with the crime and security, and we liaise with the police. So there could be things that people have concerns with, I can take back to the police. And having drop-in sessions to make the community comfortable just to come in, and that's been fantastic because the library have let me have sessions there, and that's been a very good support. And we've just done a collaboration with Ready for Living. We did a scam awareness workshop yesterday, and that was a great success. Over 50 people attended, and I think the feedback was fantastic. It was a really good event.
I heard a message from one of the attendees today, this morning, saying, I was just about to open the link that my parcel from Temu had been misdelivered, but after yesterday, I thought I'd put it in the delete box. So
it worked.
Yeah, am I the one person? But that was actual, proper feedback from the event, so it was worth doing.
So, and together as elected members, you're obviously very community minded, and I hope you can see the value of the neighbourhood support in your community. Now this, unfortunately the font has changed and made it hard to read. So Christine Dorsey in Waitaki, she had sent this through on a newsletter, and I just thought it was fantastic. This was her, what does it mean to belong to neighbourhood support? And she said, this is something I've personally pondered over. I've come up with the thought that if you're involved with neighbourhood support in any way, shape or form, you are appreciating and acknowledging the value of supportive neighbours. By doing this, you're also making a silent pledge that if there's any kind of disaster or issue, you will look out for each other in your neighbourhood as needed. So I thought that was a really nice way of putting it, as a silent pledge that you go out to support your neighbours. Oh, thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Charlene.
Thank you.
That was a really good report. Any questions, comments? Councillor Hovell and Councillor Reid.
Do you have many neighbourhood support groups in rural areas?
Not a good question, not as yet, and that is something I definitely am trying to reach out to the rural community. We're going to field days, and that will hopefully we'll be able to reach quite a few people there, but that is definitely on the radar and something that I would hope gets up and running, and much needed too, because of the crime statistics in the area is actually a lot of rural crime activity, criminal activity.
We don't have groups, formal groups as such in the rural space, but we do have a lot of member households in that rural space. We did some community hui in Edendale and in Wyndham, and there was members from the surrounding areas coming into those hui as well, and most of them signed up. So yeah, they are taking it back out into the rural space, but just not in a formalised group yet.
Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, lady. Great presentation. I'm very happy to say that I am a member of Neighbourhood Support, and I really appreciate the quite full and accurate emails that we do get when there's a little bit of flooding or even power lines, powers off, things like that. We also, of course, get that information via Antenno, but it's actually really good to have. Oh, did I read that properly? Let's do it again. The one thing I will say, two questions, and I know the first one's probably going to be yes, but do you include your brochures in the welcome and community packs?
Yes.
Anne's nodding, I know that's a yes. Just checking. And as far as the youth go, like today at high school, I know the junior school spent the day out in the community, and that would have been an ideal opportunity for them to be able to come to you ladies and have a presentation and perhaps deliver some pamphlets for you.
Yes.
So, going forward, I'm sure that if you were able to approach somebody like that, it would be a really good move.
It's fantastic. Yeah, fantastic idea. Thank you.
Charlene has, as she said, been in the role for a very short time to date. It started very intense with the 2-day hui in Wellington, but it's been amazing, and the work, I'm going to talk about it, she's not standing beside me, the work that she's done to date already has been phenomenal. So many things that we had wanted to do since we first launched the project, did not have the capacity to do so. So yeah, hats off to Charlene for everything that she's done so far to date, and the immense ideas that she's got going forward as well. I can't wait to see them roll out in a pressure. But that is a fantastic suggestion, yeah. So we just weren't ahead enough of the schedule to be looking to support that, the Gohai students today, but yeah, that's fantastic. Neighbourhood Support New Zealand as a national operation has a whole youth strategy as well, so they're really keen to promote that. It's kind of dissipated a little bit over the years. They're really keen to reinvigorate that, so I think that's a really good opportunity. We could be the flagship for doing that too.
Thank you.
Councillor Fraser.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Firstly, just on the rural one, would not an approach to federated farmers be a good idea, because they probably have the ear of 90% of the people? Yeah, that's what I thought there. But on a personal note, more of a comment than anything, as an ex-policeman, as a community constable in Invercargill, the neighbourhood support was invaluable. And then as a rural policeman, the information you get back from a well-supported, well-set-up neighbourhood group is amazing. Whether it be the neighbour Jim, I haven't seen him for 2 days, and I know personally how that has affected some families and what we've found, but it is, and it's supportive. But I think Councillor Reader's right, the youth is going to be your problem, because you've got to beat this, and how do you beat that? And it's getting them supported in the community, and unfortunately we have parents now who are the same, is that they have no idea who their neighbour is, so good luck. You'll have my support.
Thank you.
There's been some really cool things done to engage young people up and down the country from different sides. Some really innovative stuff. One of our colleagues, coordinator colleagues, she, number 8 wired, literally, this incredible basketball setup to the roof of her car, using some gathered up bits and pieces, and she takes that out into the streets, and they've actually created neighbourhood support as a street for young people. So it's a mobile street. The car is the street, it is the group. She drives the car around to where young people meet, and that's the touch point. They come in and start throwing basketballs through the nets on her car, while she talks to them and talks to their whānau while they're gathering around too. And man, has she done some stuff with that. And it was just all Kiwi number 8 ingenuity. Donated goods. I think she found some stuff out the back of a shed somewhere. Like, incredible. Like it's there. It's finding what that hook is. Yeah.
Any further questions, comments? No, thank you, Charlene and Kelly. I do remember Neighbourhood Watch a number of years ago. Sorry.
My neighbours have still got a Neighbourhood Watch sticker on their letterbox, and I walk past it and I'm like, man, whatever they made that thing out of, that's got something else. Like, it's going up to the weather wheel.
I think
Yeah, I think you need a new one. Awesome. Thank you for your time.
And as
Excuse me,
Charlene leaves the room, our next item deals with the Mayoral Task Force for Jobs, and thank you for the input that you've had on that, which is acknowledged in the report. Was appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. For
thank you, Charlene and Kelly. And Charlene, I know that you'll go from strength to strength and do a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Could I have somebody move the report be received? Thank you, Councillor Reid. Councillor Hovell, seconded. All in favour? Against? Carried. Move on to item 3, the Gore District Council Workforce Survey Analysis. Our Community Strategy Manager, Anne. Do you have anything further to add to your tabled report, Anne?
Thank you. Oh. Okay, let's do this. Thank you, Chair. Some of you will remember that we did a scoping exercise with business, and we've done it twice, and this is the third time. And the reason I guess we're doing this is to have a really good understanding of what's happening in the business community from an employment point of view, but also some of the challenges. And if you looked back to the previous year when our businesses were talking about labour shortages, probably 80+% were saying they had labour shortages. There's still quite a substantial amount of businesses in our district, at 41% of those that we interviewed. So we've interviewed 80 businesses, and this was done independent from council. So maybe I'd just see if you've got any comments or questions, because it's pretty self-explanatory with the graphs, etc.
Comments or questions, please? Councillor Fraser and then Councillor Hovell.
Thanks, Anne. I just looked at the businesses that were interviewed. Were they asked if they want to add to it or not? Because I just look at the industry I'm in. There's, I know, eight companies in the Gore town that actually contribute to the community, probably over 140 odd workers, and we're not actually. I can't see us in here, and it might be us going, no, we don't want to do it. But I just wonder how they selected the businesses to be interviewed.
It's a combination. Like, we have quite a substantial database of businesses. Some had been interviewed previously. There was some clear gaps, and so we made sure that we tried to plug those gaps and get a balanced perspective across the various sectors. And the segmentation is based on the government segmentation. So if we want to match up the data to the national data, we can. So yes, some businesses said no, we don't want to do it. Some had done it in the past and didn't want to do it this time. So it's a bit of a mix. Yeah. Okay. So the agriculture, there definitely is agriculture businesses in there, and they're sitting under the agriculture, fishery and forestry, and that's the government classification, and we didn't want to mess up those classifications, so those businesses are sitting in that category. Yeah.
Councillor Hovell.
An amazing piece of work in terms of the data that's been pulled together, and for all those involved, superb. What are you going to do with it?
So the process already, what we've done is we have actually the raw data, and we've pulled some components out of that. So with the Mayoral Task Force for Jobs program, for example, some of the questions were around whether people wanted to participate, like in Gateway or some of the other programs for young people. So those businesses that have said they want to, we can have a conversation with them and link them up to those programs. We've analysed the information around where businesses have said like they need more help with HR, accounting, all of those types of things. So some of that information we're now working with Great South, because they deliver those training programs into Gore. And so instead of it just being, a random idea, let's deliver this, we're asking them to deliver what businesses have said. So we're pulling on the data based on a range of different projects we're working on. Yeah. And some of that's about the implementation of the workforce plan, and some of it's about delivering on our mayoral task force.
Because it seems that one of the major issues is still a shortage of skilled labour.
That's correct.
I guess what is it that we as a council can do to help that?
Okay, so there's a project starting early in the new year, which is about attraction and retention. This project is led by Great South for the wider Southland, but our Gore businesses have said they want a Gore-centric approach. So our intention is we've already pulled the list of businesses that are over a certain number of staff, and are going to come together and discuss some of their challenges around attraction and retention and what they would like to see. So that's kicking off in the new year. We've already had those businesses in the room earlier this year trying to address more what I'd say is minor issues, but some of those issues related to our welcoming community space, which were around work visas, immigration, trying to get residency, where businesses here have very good staff, but they want to keep them and they want to have them become citizens of New Zealand, really. So some of those things, some of our big employers have told us around challenges of getting bank accounts, working with the IRD. So there's lots of things that are happening on a daily basis that are individual to either individuals in our community or the businesses.
Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to that last point, Ian, I was just talking to somebody the other day who was saying that one of the challenges for people when they're employing people from overseas, and they need to have all their information there so they can open bank accounts for them, for their wages to be paid into, etc. And because of language challenges, sometimes the employer will help them with that. But it's actually the hours that the banks are keeping, making huge profits, cutting services, but apparently people still have to run after them. So that's a challenge for a lot in our community, and yeah, just thought I'd mention that.
One of the biggest challenges we hear about is when people come to live in Gore and they're working for larger companies and they don't have a permanent street address. And if you don't have a permanent street address, you can't open a bank account. And so often it's either good relationships through our staff or from the company's staff that help bridge the gap to get those things in place. So there's all sorts of little things that make life quite tricky and difficult for people, and hence the Welcoming Community Project, because that helps us bridge some of those things.
Yeah.
So quite a bit of the work the team is doing, like this is one piece, but it's crossing into the other spaces of the work we're doing.
Yeah, it's an amazing amount of work that you and the team are doing. It's just so beneficial for the community. That wasn't actually my main question. It was just a comment, but I was just wondering how, when you've been talking with retailers and looking at the survey results, are you finding them retailing more or less optimistic than they have been in previous surveys?
I'm less optimistic.
And how are they what are their intentions of, I don't know, online trading is such a big black cloud really for our small rural communities where we want to keep retailers open and have our main street looking vibrant and busy. Is there any intention from the retailers as a group to have strategies to deal with that, to promote the town, etc.?
There definitely is a small group of proactive retailers that are working together. Some of you might be aware of their Facebook page, and I know they're working on some projects for this Christmas period at the moment, and I know they get together and they also have had social events where they've had speakers. Yeah, and so my team do liaise with that group. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I know there's some younger people in amongst that, and they're quite enthusiastic and able to put the time in. Thank you.
Councillor Mackenzie.
May I borrow yours, please, Neville?
No problem.
Thank you. I would just like to concur with Councillor Reid about the bank opening hours. It's a bloody disgrace in this town, excuse my language, but it is. For people that have come into town, etc. That's just a comment. But the other thing I want to mention, Anne, is something that we seem to come back to a lot is accommodation and housing for workers, getting them to stay here, finding somewhere for them to live. That'll be on your agenda, I would say. Is that a big problem?
It is a big problem, and we just hosted the Welcoming Communities lunch today, and after that I was talking to quite a few businesses, and some of them are big employers, and they were still citing that finding rental properties, finding permanent housing. Some I know have even had like hire camper vans to get, to bridge that gap until they can find something. So yes, it's still a major problem for us.
I don't know what the solution is, but it is something that we've got to look at, really.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bishop?
Just on that housing one, and I think Anne will be aware of this, but great sales. So Bobby's indicated the next steps for the regional housing project, which will start to address a lot of those issues. So I can send out that email so that all elected members have it. Did you have a copy of that as well, Anne?
I just received an email in the last 24 hours from Bobby.
Yeah, it'll be that one. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll send that out to elected members so that they can have a read through. It's quite thorough on what the next steps are.
Comments? Councillor Reid.
Just a comment, actually, Anne, on the fact that your team are organising the new citizenship ceremonies. I've only managed to make one, but it was really well done, and really important for all of those people to have a little bit of a fuss made of them, as you've been doing. It's a long process, and it's exceptionally expensive, and for some people it's a huge part of their lives, and I think it's really good to see it acknowledged properly and with ceremony and dignity. Thank you.
No further comments. And I have a couple of questions. I was just going to ask you the 90-day trial. Do you think that could assist employers?
I think from what I've heard from some of our businesses, they're happy with the 90-day trial.
Okay, that's great. And the other thing was that I noted that 60% of the businesses are unaware of the business support group. Is that on our website? I mean, it's quite a few, isn't it?
That was the business, that's the Gore Business Network that Karen runs. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
And
So that is actually, we do publicise that, and we have publicised it on our Facebook page, and we've recently started a newsletter. So whenever they're doing anything, or if they wanted to share information, we would certainly put it out. And we would want to see that grow.
yes, great. And I also wondered if council can do something about buy local, like we did say that.
So my understanding is the Go Retail is really, that group is managing all of that, and council's not involved in that process anymore. We're looking at the bigger picture, I guess. That used to sit under Sonia, as a marketing initiative.
That's right. Yes. Yes. No. Well, thank you, Anne. That was a great report, and as everyone has said, it's really great for council to have all that data in front of us to help make decisions. So thank you for all the work that you've done there. Would someone like to move that the report be received? Thank you, Councillor Fraser. Seconded, Councillor Reid. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Item 4, once again, is our Community Strategy Manager, Anne. And the report is tabled. And does anyone have any questions or comments? Do you have anything further to add first, Anne?
I probably just want to comment on Mayoral Task Force, and we've got our lovely Mayor here who might want to comment as well, because he's the figurehead for this project and is sitting on the inner group in Wellington for Mayoral Task Force. But we've entered this financial year. It took quite a while to get a contract from Wellington, and the outcomes we need to deliver is 25 outcomes. And we've been very lucky when we had Charlene, and she did an awesome job. And I really do want to acknowledge her because she's helped transition across or out of the role and helped Joe. And Joe's with us because many of you haven't met Joe. How many weeks, Joe? 5 weeks? And we're sitting at 13 outcomes at the moment with potential of being maybe around 19 at the start of February. So we have to get 25 by the end of July. But that's outcomes that are MSD outcomes. There are other outcomes over and above that, which are people that are not NEET, so not in employment, training or education. And I also want to welcome Guillaume, who is 9 weeks in the job, who's sitting in the Welcoming Communities space, and also going to be the person implementing the workforce plan. So a lot of his work crosses into that Mayoral Task Force as well, from the business side of it. So I feel like Mayoral Task Force for us is in really good hands. We're making good progress. Ben, do you want to comment before I move on to some of the other topics in the report?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Anne. As councillors probably don't know, actually, as Anne mentioned, I sit on the group of core members for MTFJ, which is currently going under not so much a restructure, but a bit of a strategy session of what is our mission and vision and where do we take it from here. As some of you may or may not be aware, the program got refunded this year for $12 million, I think it was overall. But that funding, so it got funded for 2 years, 12 million this year and 10 million next year. So there's a $2 million shortfall for the next year. That's going to be really difficult to fund across the country. That's why we only have 25 outcomes compared to 50 the year before, as the program just can't afford it. And unfortunately, it's little councils like us that suffer the most, and ultimately it's the kids who suffer. So we're looking for alternate funding, whether that's through MOE or other partners, other government departments who can add some funding to the mix. So that's quite a large piece of work, but hopefully we can get that over the line so we can get that topped up. While I have the mic as well, I just want to say a huge congratulations and well done to Anne to bring on the 2 staff members that she has. It was pretty dire straits there for a moment of Anne was looking like she was going to be flying solo, with Kylie 3 as well. But yeah, somehow managed to pull it out of the bag and has done an incredible job with 2 awesome new hires. So while we'll be sad to lose Charlene and Mark, you've done an excellent job to find replacements. So very well done.
Thank you, Your Mayor. I think we haven't really lost Charlene because the neighbourhood support, we've already done a joint initiative yesterday, and when the floods happened, neighbourhood support were really fantastic with delivering to our community and giving us access to information and getting messages out. So probably the only other thing I'd like to comment on is the Welcoming Communities. We just haven't had any staff to actually deliver this program this year, but in the short time Guillaume's been with us, we've done a huge amount of work, and we've basically connected with all the players that are in this space at a national level, and we still have a few at a regional level to connect with. But today we actually relaunched the Welcome Pack. We had the partners that have been delivering the Welcome Packs, and they were all incredibly positive. We had them in for a lunch and explained to them the process and gave them a new Welcome Pack. We've also launched a newsletter to a Welcoming Communities participants, so anybody that's new or is a partner, and that's been really well received. So really looking forward to getting into next year and really getting this cranking along. So it's in a good space, so I'm pretty happy about that. Yeah.
Thank you, Anne. Questions or comments? Your Worship.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Probably could have this conversation offline, Anne, but just wondering if there's any update on the health locality, primarily around boundaries. I know we've kicked it around as a bit of a political football every time it comes up to governance level, but it seems to then go away and we don't hear about it.
Yeah, I'd have to say, sitting on the governance, actually we haven't heard about it either for a while. So it's something I can bring up at our next meeting and see where it's at and report back to you.
Any further questions, comments? Thank you, Ian. I know that you've done a huge amount of work and to get this strategy across the line, so thank you to you and your co-workers. I think you've done a fantastic job. I'd like someone to move the report be received, please. Thank you, Your Worship. Seconder. Councillor Phillips. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. So our last item is item 5. It's the minutes of the grant subcommittee meetings. I'll just pass over to Your Worship to follow up on that, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Grants Committee members, feel free to jump in at any point. Just after a conversation we had, as you'll see, there's 2 sets of minutes in there, one with recommendations of a way forward, and the second meeting of just receiving the presentations. The conversation was around we didn't particularly want to send the minutes, some off with approvals and some not. So after discussions with the chair of the Grants Committee, whether there was a recommendation falling out around pulling those recommendations back so that the Grants Committee can have a full conversation about all the grants together, and then pushing those onto the LTP committee, was that correct, Neville? So it can be discussed there. So would you like me to formulate a recommendation for that? Are there any questions on that process? It's a bit messy, but might be the best way to tackle them all together.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Your Worship.
Sorry,
you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry, which committee was that going forward to?
So the Grants Committee sent it through to this committee in the minutes, and then it would usually go through to council, but it's only got half of them with actual approved grants and the other half don't.
Yeah.
So it'll be going back to the Grants Committee so they can pull them all together and then send it through the LTP. Does that make sense? It's a bit messy, I know. Yeah, cool.
But we will, we can move that the minutes of the grant subcommittee meetings held on the 25th of October and the 8th of November be received. Would you like to add to that recommendation, Your Worship? Councillor Hovell, are you quandering something? All right, thank you. So could I have somebody move, please, that the minutes be received? Thank you, Councillor Phillips. Seconder? Thank you, Councillor Hovell. All in favour, please say aye.
Sorry, Madam Chair. I know were you there for the whole meeting of the second one?
Well, it's saying be received.
They're just received.
Oh, okay, my bad.
I'm
sorry,
not ratifying them, I'm just receiving them.
Sorry, my bad.
Okay. So we have a mover and a seconder. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Councillor Hovell.
I'm just wondering, and looking at the previous item, that the Southland funders have had regular meetings. I think it would be useful input to the Grants Committee to actually be aware. Thank you. It would be useful input to the Grants Committee to actually be aware of other funding that may be available to community groups, particularly when it comes to looking at a budget for moving forward and whether something should go to other organisations rather than through council. Don't know if Councillor Phillips wants to add to that at all.
Councillor Phillips.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. This part of the reasoning is that the key groupings of the grants funding hasn't been really discussed yet, and this is probably a bit of a problem. We'll probably be doing the grants a little bit ahead of time, and so we've got to really figure out what sponsorship funding is, what the MOU agreements are, the projects, and the contracts for services that we have, and also the council subcommittees. So we have to organise all those sort of into groups first before we can actually issue out the sponsorship or grants, whatever they may be. Hence the probably the recommendation that His Worship's going to put forward to bring towards council for a decision later on.
Thank you, Councillor Phillips. Any more comments before we put a recommendation?
I can read out the recommendation, happy for it to be wordsmithed as well. So that the Community Wellbeing Committee requests that the Governance Committee reconsider the below recommendations as part of wider LTP conversations. Is everyone happy with
You'd
that?
like to move that?
Happy to move that, Madam Chair.
Could I have a seconder for that recommendation, please? Councillor Mackenzie. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Councillor Phillips.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to, for people that may be watching this online or whatever, or the reports that may come out, is that we're going to be doing this as swiftly as possible, and we are aware of some of the financial implications it may bring upon some of the people that are forwarding their grants to us. So, you know, we're doing this as fast as we can.
I think it is important that people do know that. Thank you. So that brings...
They will not be forgotten.
Pleased to hear that. So that brings us to the end of our meeting today. Thank you all for attending, and as this is the last meeting of the Community Wellbeing Committee for 2023, I'd just like to wish you all a safe, relaxed and happy Christmas break. Thank you.